Welcome to Touchline Talk by Soccerspective. I'm your host, Brandon Faust. And as we head into 2025, we're diving into the top 5 most disappointing managers of 2024, whether it's from poor performances, missed expectations, or just a lack of progress. We're looking at some of the big names in the game who've struggled this year. We'd love to hear from you. Who is a manager you want us to spotlight in early 2025s? Drop it there in the comments. And while you're there, why don't you hit like and subscribe to the Soccerspective YouTube channel? When you like and subscribe, it's a win-win. You get the content that we upload very regularly and weekly directly to your YouTube account, and it helps us to expand our footprint to get this content and resources to more soccer fans and coaches. So here we are, top 5 disappointing managerial performances of 2024. Would love to hear if you agree. If you disagree and have other suggestions, would love to know. First up, Pep Guardiola. Manchester City. Yes, they won the Premier League yet again. But in 2023-24 and April of 24, Champions League elimination in the quarterfinals at the hands of Real Madrid. After coming off the treble, Manchester City wanted more and could not get past the quarterfinals in April of 24. And then City's 24-25 season began with unexpected inconsistency despite their star-studded lineup. Yes, the injury of Rodri, of course, is significant, but Guardiola's tactics have failed to maintain the dominance that we've come to expect. By November, Manchester City had dropped to 6th in the Premier League, their worst position under Guardiola since his time in charge, and they sit in 6th at the turn of the new year. Champions League form has dipped as well. 4-1 loss to Sporting Lisbon, 3-3 draw to Feyenoord, and a 2-0 loss to Juventus has them sitting 22 out of 36 teams in this new Champions League format. So they've got some work to do there as well. City, who have won 6 out of the last 7 Premier League titles, have just won 1 of their past 13 league games, losing 9 of them in shocking form. And it has put Guardiola under immense pressure. You can see it. You can see it in his body language. But he's vowed to not walk away or to blame any of his players. Just recently, we put a spotlight on their match against Everton, which they drew 1-1. You can go back and watch that entire episode featuring Pep Guardiola and the struggles at Manchester City and how they can maybe get out of it right here. Click this link and you can get access to that episode. So really, players underperforming, the loss of Rodri, injuries, KDB's form hasn't really been there. Phil Foden has been non-existent, it seems, this year. So lots of struggles, and you can learn more about that in our most recent episode of Touchline Talk featuring Pep Guardiola. Not to go too far across town, it's Erik ten Hag at Manchester United. Ten Hag was sacked at the end of October, and Ten Hag's Manchester United was plagued by poor results throughout the 23-24 and 24-25 seasons, with the squad underperforming, struggling to find consistency. United's form dipped significantly in the Premier League. An 8th place finish in the 23-24 season was well below the standards set at Manchester United, but it seemed like an FA Cup win against rival Man City was going to help him keep his job. He held on to that job throughout the summer and early fall. But key defeats continue to bring him down, and by the end of October, they said enough is enough. His final match in charge, they lost 2-1 to West Ham and saw Manchester United sitting in 14th with just 3 wins in the league out of 9 league matches. His failure to bring unity to the squad, the lack of tactical flexibility, were significant contributors to his downfall. His inability to adapt to various styles, failure to address defensive frailties, became major points of criticism during his tenure. He had conflicts with players like Ronaldo, Jadon Sancho, amongst others, and he brought in players and backed a lot of players who have not worked out, like Antony, right? Big fee, big wage, and it has just not worked out. Next on our list is Greg Berhalter, the U.S. men's national team manager, or should I say former U.S. men's national team manager, Greg Berhalter. The U.S. men's national team's disappointing Copa America exit was a major blow, especially on home soil. USA had an awful showing in such a huge tournament. Losing to Panama 2-1 was completely unacceptable. Walking out of that tournament with 1 win and 2 losses meant the tournament was over before it even really started. Heading into the Copa America, a heavy defeat to an equally kind of matched Colombia team, which destroyed the U.S. 5-1 in a friendly, did not help as well, not to mention all of the weird stuff that came out of the World Cup in 2022 between the Berhalter and the Reyna family. His tactical rigidity, his commitment to build out of the back, even on days where they did not have the personnel to do so, led to his demise. Refusal to adapt, growing issues with senior players, hurt the morale of the squad. He just didn't seem to be able to bring out the best from a talented group of players, and his failure to adapt in critical moments really sealed his fate. There had always been discussions around his family connections to U.S. soccer, and that really creating an opportunity that maybe he hadn't quite earned yet. But after his sacking after the Copa America, it has led to the arrival of Mauricio Pochettino, who is actually the next manager on our list after an interesting time at Chelsea. Mauricio Pochettino at Chelsea. Man, it was an interesting appointment from him. Obviously he had been at Spurs and had for relative to Spurs, great success. Took him to a Champions League final, European football, all of that. But Pochettino struggled to get the best out of a massive and disjointed squad at Chelsea. Despite spending heavily on a lot of younger players, to be fair, Chelsea failed to click, especially in critical fixtures. I will say I don't think he was bad at Chelsea. He had a young, disjointed squad, huge club, with huge club transitions happening. And I think it was shocking to me that he gave up on the project after experiencing pressure. But I think it seemed like the standards were shifting. It seemed like the Chelsea brass were still trying to figure out what they want and don't want after they made all these investments in young players and all these different things. Their results in the end weren't awful. Obviously, sixth in the Premier League is not quite what Chelsea's after. But they finished, when they finished the 23-24 season, sixth in the Premier League, made it to the semifinals of the FA Cup, and then were runners-up in the Carabao Cup, the EFL Cup. Chelsea's chaos, both on and off the field, created an uphill battle for Poch. Tactical missteps, such a large squad to manage, some key players being injured, player discord, lack of identity contributed to his downfall. I don't think he was really given a fair shake there. But it was shocking to me that he was done after a season. It seemed like Chelsea had just been talking about these long-term projects, and it seemed like if you're bringing in somebody of Poch's caliber, that he would be totally understanding of what that direction is. So he was sacked by mutual consent after intense discussions, marking another short-lived tenure for a high-profile manager at Chelsea. We actually feature Mauricio Pochettino, his play style, and his arrival at the U.S. men's national team in another episode of Touchline Talk that you can get here as well. The next manager we're going to feature is Ruben Baraja. You may not be as familiar with him unless you're dialed into La Liga, but he was the manager at Valencia. He's just sacked recently here in December. Valencia had a rough 23-24, finished in ninth, mid-table, regressed. I'd say that's usually the basement of Valencia's standards is like mid-table. They're usually trying to press on for Champions League places. But by the end of November, they were in danger of falling into the relegation zone in the 24-25 La Liga season. And despite having a squad with decent enough quality, Baraja struggled to get results against teams that they really should have been winning matches against. The team lacked structure, and defensive frailties became exposed week after week after week. His inability to motivate the squad, along with the lack of tactical organization, led to growing frustration amongst the fans and management. And the outcome was, after a poor run of form and another loss in the month of December, Valencia made the decision to part ways with Baraja, and the club needed to change in leadership as they go into a relegation scrap. Well, that wraps up our look at the 5 most disappointing managers of 2024. From Guardiola's decline at City to Berhalter's struggle with the U.S. men's national team, it's clear that even the best managers like Pep can face difficult spells. So thanks for tuning in to this episode of Touchline Talk by Soccerspective, and we'll catch you next time for more in-depth soccer analysis as we feature various managers as we head into 2025. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.